Hello and welcome. I'm Michael Hook, the Training Manager for Biasi Boilers, and I would like to welcome you and thank you for watching this short video regarding checking your system water pressure. We receive many phone calls from customers regarding this issue, and although we like to help, it's not always possible. We don't always know what type of equipment your installer may have chosen or where he may have installed it, but we will try to help you as much as we can. In this video we look at some basic options that will hopefully help you to find and correct your water pressure. There are a couple of things that we need to look at. Firstly, how to read your heating system pressure, and secondly, how to recharge it back to its correct pressure if that's required. For all sealed system Biasi boilers, we ask that the pressure when the system is cold is set between 1 and 1.5. The water pressure will increase a little when the heating system warms up, so checking the pressure when it's cold becomes a nice set point for you to always check to. Obviously, depending on the heat, it will be at a higher level and different pressures subsequent to that point. Water leaks around the valves on radiators, particularly on the stem that comes out of the radiator, and sometimes even at the air caps and the sealing cap on the top of the radiator, can be particularly difficult to resolve. Not often seen, often hidden behind furniture, so a quick review around the property just to have a look at these points may find a point where you're either releasing water or possibly even drawing air into your system. Leaks from pipes such as this can result just from bad fittings or possibly even from frost damage. And again, a quick review around your property, just having a look behind furniture and particularly in places of exposure, hallways, lofts and outhouses. From time to time, air will build up in your heating system and you need to go around and obviously degas the radiators. The problem when you do this is it also lowers the water pressure at your boiler. Releasing that little bit of air stuck in the radiator on a towel rail or even on a traditional radiator, as you release that air, it lowers the water pressure showing on your boiler, and that means you have to go back to the boiler and top the pressure back up. When you are bleeding the radiators, use a rag just below the valve or a small capture device to capture any water that comes through once the air has been evacuated. You may need to repeat this process after a short period of time, just in case air is trapped in the pipework and only starts to move when you introduce fresh pressure. If you've been trying to introduce pressure and the pressure gauge isn't rising, and you've looked all around the property, at the radiators, the pipework, and can't see any evidence of water leakage, the last place to look is possibly outside at the rear wall where the boiler is mounted. The boiler has a safety discharge pipe. If the safety discharge valve has malfunctioned, this could be constantly passing and losing pressure out through here. So have a look. The pipe should turn back into the wall, as you can see here. If there's any evidence of constant leakage, then contact your installer immediately to come and resolve. Do not under any condition try to cap or to seal this pipe. It is essential that this remains open. It's a primary safety device. Okay. We're going to take a look at digital and analogue gauges, but first let's have a look at the filling loop. Filling loops come in all manner of guises. This one has been installed directly below the boiler, but sometimes they may be in a cupboard below or an airing cupboard, or in another part of the property with an independent pressure and temperature gauge. So always refer to your installer if you're not sure where to find it. The loop itself is removable and should always be removed when not in use. It is advisable though to cap the bottom of the valves when you remove the filling loop. This just prevents any water ingress into the property should somebody knock one of the valve levers by mistake. The two little levers, sometimes these will require the use of a screwdriver, and there'll just be a little screwdriver slot. These, as you can see, have got two little valve handles. Now the handles are opposed to the direction of the valve, which means they're off. When you're going to fill up the system, turn the first valve in line with the pipe and then slowly open the second one. If you open it too quickly, you may cause a problem with leakage if the valve hasn't been connected up properly. In this instance, tighten the valve back or the pipe back up to the valve and then try again. Increase the water pressure to the manufacturer's set point. And as said before, with Biasi boilers, they should always be between 1 and 1.5 bar on all our sealed system boilers. That's when the heating system is cold. Here's another filling loop device. This is often found on our M160 range of boilers. That would be Activas, Inovias, the Advance Plus. This slightly different, it's the same loop. The valves connecting onto the valves, and obviously you have the two little arms. The two little arms again opposed to the direction of the valve, so they're off. To open them, you need to obviously turn that valve in line with the pipe, and then slowly with the second one, and you'll hear the inrush of water. Turn it back off when you hit the pressure. Again, slow, cautious. If there's no indication of the pressure rising on your boiler, go and have a look around the system. Check your radiators, look at the pipes, check any exposed pipe work out in outhouses, loft spaces, utility rooms which are unheated maybe, just in case, particularly in cold weather, you may have a burst, a pipe might have been fractured or not. Obviously if the pressure gauge isn't going up and the water is going into the system, it has to be going somewhere. This is the split temperature pressure gauge that you'll find on the Riva Advance, the Riva HEs, the Riva Compacts, the Riva Compact HEs, a whole host of Biasi boilers. It's a split gauge with the pressure on the bottom half and the system temperature on the top. What I would like to do is to actually bleed a radiator, and you can actually see what happens to the gauge when the radiator is bled. So as we introduce the bleed valve on the radiator, obviously we're looking to extract any air. What you should notice is the pressure gauge going down. So I've got my small bowl and a radiator key. I've come to my first radiator and I'm opening that up to bleed it. And as I open the vent, slowly you'll see the pressure depletes on the pressure gauge. Now by the time you've gone around a full system of 10, 12, maybe 13 or 14 radiators with air trapped in each radiator, obviously the pressure could drop to 0 on the boiler. So each radiator pop back to the boiler, top the pressure back up, and that will keep the system working nicely. This is an external pressure gauge installed onto one of our heat-only boilers which has been converted to sealed system. You'll see on the gauge it has two needles. The black needle is the actual pressure and the red needle is a physical indicator. And you'll see here if I put a little screwdriver into the red needle, I can actually adjust that to wherever I want. So I could set that as a reminder for 1 bar minimum. And you'll see here that the pressure is slightly low. If I open up the filling loop and watch the black needle, I would like that to sit in between 1 and 1.5, midway between the 1 and the 2. Just let that establish a little bit higher. And slowly turn the valve down as I approach my set point, and that's sitting nicely exactly where I want. The system's cold. I know that that pressure will increase when it warms up a little bit, but on a cold system between 1 and 1.5 it's absolutely perfect for what we're looking for. This is the pressure gauge mounted onto our Activa boiler. Sometimes people struggle to find this, and on the Mark 1, which had a blue front fascia, it was a mechanical gauge mounted on the underside, and you can see the pressure gauge just nestled here. Because of the requests from installers and customers alike, we moved this and converted it to a digital gauge, and you now access the digital gauge by a combination of buttons on the front of the boilers. I'll show you that shortly. This is the front display of the Biasi Advanced Plus boiler. Now with the Advanced Plus, you can see here it's showing error 4. It's saying that it has a primary circulation or a pressure issue. Now to activate the pressure gauge, you have to activate the bottom centre and the top right button together for about 2 seconds. So if you press those two buttons in, about 2 seconds and let go, you'll see it shows now D0, 0, 0. So it's saying that the pressure is actually on 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the filling loop and just slowly increase the pressure. So 0.1, 4, 5. You can see it going up. What we're aiming for is about 1.5. So 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 1 bar, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. It's starting to slow the water going in down slowly. And I think that's all we're going to get out of it. So we have about 1.4 bar of pressure in the incoming main at this moment in time. So, just to double check, again I'm going to re-enter the two buttons together for about 2 seconds and let go. D0, which is the code for the pressure display, and it's showing 1.4 bar. And finally, this is the display on the Inovia range of boilers. Now the Inovia has a permanent representation of water pressure. If I just activate the front lights, you can see here at the moment it's showing 0.8 bar. If I top the pressure up slightly by opening up the filling loop slowly, you'll see that 0.8 rise. Just activate the light again, 1 bar, a bit more pressure in, 1.1, 1.2, we'll just turn it off at that point. So with this boiler, all you really need to do on the Inovia range is just to activate the front light, and the pressure is always on display in the bottom right hand side. Okay, just a final recap, some of the more important points. Firstly, always check around your property for any signs of water leakage from pipes, radiators, valves, just in case you have got a blown joint or a blown pipe. You don't want to start introducing fresh water into the system and just make the situation worse. Secondly, always top the pressure back up after you've degassed radiators. It's one of the most common mistakes that people make. They'll go and bleed all the radiators downstairs and an hour later wonder why they're cold. So if you do release air from a radiator, go back to your boiler, check the water pressure and adjust if necessary. Always open valves slowly and raise the pressure of the system slowly. Again, if you've got a blown joint somewhere and you just open a valve up fully, you'll be squirting water all over the place. Always remove the filling loop after you've finished adjusting the pressure and cap off. This is a requirement under the model water bylaws. Always place the filling loop in a safe place that you can find it quickly when you need it in the future. A good place would be on top of the boiler. If it's disconnected and put into a bag underneath, it could be lost, so just be careful that it is locatable when you need it. And the last one, if you're in doubt, always consult your installer. He installed the boiler, the filling device, he knows the system, and he can give you the best level of advice in relation to getting that water pressure back up, or potentially sorting out and resolving leaks. Thanks ever so much for watching the video. Take care.